Hello and welcome everyone to the second episode of DigiCorp podcast, also known as D podcast. And D as in Dawn. Dawn is one of our all-time favorite movies of Amitabh Bachchan. And if you don't know Amitabh Bachchan, we can't help you. Sorry. So my name is Abhishek. My co-host Kuntal. We both are co-founders of DigiCorp. Kuntal, would you like to tell something about DigiCorp to the audience?
Yeah, so DigiCorp is something what we started in 2004. We are four friends, and at that time we just wanted to work on our first project, and that is how it all started. And today, like, what we do is we do what we were doing before 10 years. It is like we are still building the software products, and we mostly work with startups. And what we help them do is we help them make usable products, and we help them connect with the end user of the product, and we partner with them in their journey.
All right. So I think primarily web and mobile products we are talking about here.
Right.
And probably one point which Kuntal missed is we are very good in design as well. So whatever we create, we make sure that it looks really, really good, as well as it works well. And Kuntal, I have heard that you have a position of CEO as a co-founder of DigiCorp, but you shy away from calling yourself Chief Executive Officer. Instead, you call Chief Enabler Officer. Any reason?
Yeah, so you rightly mentioned that I somehow shy away from that executive term. And by nature, I am also a little bit shy to hold the control. So what I have figured out is I try enable people to connect to our vision, which is like how we can make usable products. So what my main job during day is, with whosoever I converse or whatever activity I do, I connect it with how we should build a product, usable product. That is how I keep enabling everyone around the company and also the clients. So that is what I keep doing.
So as I understand, you are mainly looking after the operations, and now recently you have started looking after the marketing as well.
Yes.
Right. So and that's why you are calling yourself Chief Enabler, as you generally go around and enable people.
Right.
All right. And last question to you: why did you start D podcast? What is the reason?
Okay, so since last year, I have started listening to many podcasts. One of them was Thoughtbot podcast, which is what they call giant robots, and they were sharing a lot of interesting insights, and they were also bringing in wonderful speakers. Like, there were startup founders, there were great designers, right? There were other entrepreneurs. So I thought that why we should not, we also share our experience, and we also call these kind of people on our podcast and learn from their journey. That is what is my main motive behind starting this podcast.
Right. And as far as I understand, D podcast, here we try to call local entrepreneurs, right, which are generally city-based entrepreneurs whom we know, love and respect, and people who have probably started their company just now, or they are probably already very well established. Mm-hmm. So this is our way of giving back to the startup community.
Right.
All right. So today we have a very, very special guest with us. When startups are scrambling for customers, Shrijay of LegalZoom has acquired 1,000 customers in the first year of its operations. Right, Shrijay?
Yes, that is correct.
So Shrijay, it's in a way kind of crazy. How do you do that? How do you have 1,000 paying customers in first year?
So a lot of our customer acquisition really happens through different marketing channels. I particularly hold a lot of experience into strategizing e-commerce businesses. So from the strategic aspects, we are very sound. Our operations have been equally strong as well. Since my co-founder Naman Pipara also is a very seasoned chartered accountant. So overall, when we talk about acquiring customers and retaining the customers is a more important thing for us. Right, our customer service standards are extremely high, and so that is one of the major reasons why we have been able to stay in this game as a more sustainable business and acquire so many customers through providing great service, word of mouth, and also doing fair share of paid marketing.
Fair enough. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Shrijay Sheth of LegalZoom. So, Shrijay, let's take a step back. Tell us, how did it all begin?
Absolutely. And first of all, thank you, Team DigiCorp, for having me over here. It is a great pleasure. Starting LegalViz, it was a very interesting chapter for both of us, me and my co-founder Naman Pipara. Also a very natural progression in our careers. I worked with a company called LegalZoom.com, which is a world leader in legal e-commerce for almost 5 good years before I came back to India in 2013. And I started a company which was mainly working in strategizing e-commerce businesses, their scalability, consulting, and digital marketing, and a little bit of data analytics as well. So while establishing a company, definitely I gone through a lot of different, hoops and a little bit of troubles as well, dealing with a lot of different government agencies and stuff, and also a lot of service providers. So I kind of knew that there is a problem out there, but the problem was a little different than what LegalZoom was tackling back then, which was more towards the pricing. Over here, I think it was more towards the a lot more towards transparency, affordability, and accessibility of good professionals. So I met Naman Pipara, who is a seasoned chartered accountant and also a partner at a company called Pipara and Company, which is highly reputed company in the industry. And he was also having this idea since long of kind of scaling up the conventional CA practices into something that is more accessible by people, especially startups. So when we met at a business conference meeting, and we shared our ideas, I think it kind of came up as a very natural progression to our thought process to open up something like LegalViz and help a lot of startups and small businesses access a very quality services at an affordable price range. So it took up that challenge as a very interesting business value proposition that we could create in the industry.
All right. So I believe that you went to US for studies.
Yes,
and
I did.
then you were working with LegalZoom.
That's correct.
So how did it happen? Like, suddenly one day you realized that LegalZoom is not for me, and I want to start a business, or it was a natural progression towards starting your own company?
It was not actually like that, and very interestingly, my first consulting assignment that I did coming back from the US to India was also for LegalZoom, and I continued working with LegalZoom for 2 more years after I came back to India. So roughly around 2015 mid, until I had started LegalViz as a project, I was actually working with LegalZoom. So obviously there is a lot of credit, especially in the knowledge base that I have to run this business in a more sustainable manner, is definitely going to LegalZoom and the great experience that I gathered from there.
Great.
So after LegalZoom, you started this e-commerce consulting, and then that got pivoted to LegalViz, is it?
E-commerce consulting still exists,
Okay.
and we also work with some of the very disruptive companies in the field. So that definitely exists as a business in the name of Hire for Hire Consulting, but also at the same time, LegalViz was something wherein I could put in a lot of my effort, time, and speciality that I have gathered, working almost 10 years with technology-enabled companies. And what Naman had from his conventional chartered accountancy company, which is a family-run and highly scaled company called Pipara and Company. So it was really kind of taking best of both the businesses and combining the efforts to create something which is highly disruptive in nature.
So one thing what we usually come across is many startups have a sketchy idea in the beginning, and then if we follow the lean methodology, we ask them that you go ahead and validate the market, right? So how did it, like, initially, probably when you and Naman met at a business conference and you both connected on ideas, then what were the first validation steps that you took?
So the first validation step definitely came from friends and family. We asked a lot of friends and family members of what are the real pain points that they face in running the day-to-day business. We also figured out that a lot of people either spend a lot in terms of time or money, either of those or both, or they actually stay very uncompliant with the law because they think that it is very complex, right?
Okay.
And so that was, I think, the first good validation that we had to our business model is, if we can use technology to simplify a lot of these things, then we may have a lot of more people who would be willing to stay compliant with the law. Also, every passing day, we were hearing a lot of news about government's great initiatives towards digitizing a lot of things, right? So we were definitely sure that we are riding a very good wave, which is here to sustain with the government policies changing. Apart from that, I think the first 2 or 3 months when we served a lot of clients and they kept coming back to us, I think that became a very strong validation point for us, that yes, people actually like the services, and not only they like, they come back for the services, kind of trusting us for more and more complex services in the legal nature, because we understood that our product is not a very simple product like selling chocolates over an online portal, right? So
Interesting. So, is there any initial major breakthrough or any big customers you got in which, gave you a lot of confidence?
most of our customers are small scale businesses and startups. I would kind of shy away a little bit from naming particular customers, because that is kind of a confidentiality thing in our industry, right? I mean, that is where we make that differentiation. We do have our fair share of larger corporates who are our clients, but in my understanding, since we are in the business of serving startups and small scale businesses, and from the business professional services standpoint, to make feel them they are big enough, I think that is the differentiator. So every customer, may it be small or big in terms of balance sheet, I think is a big customer for us.
Great. No, that's, I think, very nice thought process. Yeah. All right. So, any challenges you have faced during any moments where you feel like, how do I go ahead? This happens to probably every
Absolutely.
startup. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think the biggest challenge that any and every startup could really face is hiring right set of people. And having a vision from founders and co-founders of the company is one thing, and actually being able to exercise or implement that vision into a success is altogether a different ballgame. So from what I and Naman both think, is having right set of people in the bus and then finding right seats for those people is extremely critical and crucial. That is going to define your startup success. And so I think that has been the most challenging work for us. That is where we have also faced some troubles, but at the same time, we have been very patient and calm about the situations and really see who fits the model the best and how can we make this team and the environment of working the way that everybody looks for coming back to the work every single day. And I think that has been the most challenging part of being in this business, or for that matter, any startup journey.
So how big is your team, and how they are structured right now?
So currently we are 20 odd people in our team, which are LegalViz employees. And then we also work through a network of affiliates in 30 different cities. From the LegalViz employees, 20 people pool, we have most of the staffing towards the business professionals. Definitely that is being our backbone of the business. So they would comprise of CA, CS, lawyers, and other business professionals. The rest of them are technology and marketing people. That is also very important aspect of the business. Scaling LegalViz is a lot more about technology, a lot more about using the technology and digital marketing to be able to address requirements of large scale population. So I would say 70-30 or 65-45 is the ratio of business professionals versus technology and marketing.
So, I mean, you brought up a great point that one of the major differentiators of LegalViz to, let's say, compared to traditional CA or a law firm is use of technology.
Fair.
So can you elaborate more on that? What kind of technology you are using, and how do you make your business scalable than your traditional competitors?
Absolutely. So there are two things. One, when we talk about CAs or traditional CA firms being our competition, we rather think them as one ecosystem, right? So I wouldn't really tag them as competition. I would rather tag them as in some areas they are definitely kind of competing within the service lines. In a lot of other areas they are not, because we are structured as a private limited company to be able to advertise.
Okay.
And what that means is we cannot do a licensed practice of chartered accountancy. So I cannot sign somebody's audit documents, right? So in certain aspects we are we are building an ecosystem which is a win-win situation for everybody, including the lawyers and CAs who are functioning and working in a conventional setup. Now, coming back to the core question, which is what is a differentiator? Definitely technology is one of the major differentiating point, right? And a lot of learnings from my previous experiences kind of go into building a technology that is scale ready. So I'll give you a good example of what is the customer perception of placing an order and how we take it on the back end, right? When you come to LegalViz for starting a company or incorporation of a company, you place an order of incorporating a company, right? On the back end, that kind of is sliced down into multiple processes, that being MOA, AOA drafting, or name application, or it could be PAN 10 acquisition, number obtainment. It could be getting the registration certificate, and so on and so forth. So there are multiple processes that happen before you actually get the registration certificate for the company in your hand. To be scalable, definitely we have to kind of divide this one order into multiple processes and then assign each process to a particular department when we scale to that level with a clear set of dependencies figured out in the technology stack itself, that makes it so easy to kind of run with that process, making that a very seamless experience for the team as well. So using technology for scalability and breaking down one order into different processes, wherein there is a clear kind of a decision tree or a dependency tree that defines who does what work and whose work comes after whose work, is very important. And that is how we hit a lot of scalability, and also that is where we hit a lot of accuracy of fulfilling orders with the scalability.
Very interesting. So as far as I understand, this is a very, very sophisticated technology or a software, which is in a way probably a combination of CRM and probably a to-do list for individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And have you built this technology in-house, or you have outsourced some part of it?
So we have kind of built the technology in-house, and probably part of that is outsourced as well. So we have used two different agencies to kind of build the technology, who are also kind of key partners in managing and building technology. Our technology stack is based on Java-based platform called Liferay. Liferay is quite friendly when it comes to process-driven e-commerce, because it enables a lot of different features which are very important for us, mainly being the audit trails or the security layers and stuff like that. We've used a company called Tops Technologies for building the technology. Obviously, we have had a lot of inputs from our own experiences to kind of build that technology to the level that we would want. We've used a company called Novarth for our front end or the user experience, and they have done a decent job with kind of engaging the clients or making a portal which is highly engaging in terms of technology presentation, right? So
no, I think very interesting. If I could understand it, is your main part is probably how to efficiently process these jobs. And you also initially mentioned that you have a data analytics also one of your core strength. So if I want to understand that, suppose there is a normal CA providing company registration service or any service, and LegalViz is providing it, how is data analytics be a differentiator which I get if I go through LegalViz?
Fair. So data analytics become kind of very important for us. We watch our data and we make very critical decisions about what kind of customers do we serve, how do we attract those customers, and what kind of service standards do we manage. So there are definitely set of KPIs that we look on a very regular periods to kind of health check for the company. But also at the same time, I think it is very critical for an e-commerce business to very closely monitor which customers do they pick and at what cost do they pick the customers, right? And so I think a lot of analytics and data driven decisions come very handy over there. Is we very closely monitor the lifetime value of our customers, wherein traditional CAs would probably think that as a transactional gain or loss. What we really invest in is acquiring, let's say, Digicorp as a customer, right? And then we already know that the service industry that we are in, it associates with a very close lifetime value of any customer, right? And so from the data analytics perspective, we not only see what kind of customers do we gather at what cost levels, but also how well do we do in terms of bringing them back to the business in a very regular periodical manner, and how much of a lifetime value do they accumulate over time, and which is going to really define the success of our business. Is we might be bleeding money at this point of time to acquire the customers, but how we see this business going is when we acquire a pool of substantial customers, right, and then they hold a certain amount of lifetime value with them, that is going to bring in a huge wave of growth for LegalVays.
Great. So in terms of traction, how is it doing?
So it is doing good so far. We built our first year as a very great proof of concept. We acquired roughly around 1,000 customers with a extremely healthy rate of repeat purchases. At this point of time, we do have almost 30% of our customers coming back to us in a very short period of time to buy another products. Roughly around 40% of the revenue month over month happens on a repeat customer basis. So it's a very healthy metric. So we do feel that we have a huge and very strong proof of concept over here that is now extremely ready to scale.
Okay. And in terms of revenue, are you guys profitable yet, or you are breaking even?
So thinking about the investments that we had done in our initial days, which was more towards building the technology in a way that we wanted, definitely that is a large scale investment that we have made upfront. If you think about operationally being profitable, then yes, we did turn operationally profitable in January. So every new customer that we acquire at this point of time becomes operationally profitable in the same month. So from operations, yes, we do have a profitability or a break even, at least per to say, at this point of time. Obviously, the initial investments still have to be recouped with a large scale.
So just to give give us an idea, what are the different services that you provide?
So our services are very, so we basically tag ourselves as a startup for startups and SMEs, right? All the services that are typically provided by chartered accountants, company secretaries, lawyers, and other business professionals is kind of a offering as a one-stop solution provider from LegalVays. Anything from starting a business in terms of incorporating a private limited company or an LLP or a partnership proprietorship is what we do. We also help the companies or businesses procure government licenses and taxation numbers. So for example, VAT and CST, now GST, MSME registration, stuff like that. We also do function in a full spectrum of IP portfolio, patent, copyrights, trademarks, their infringements, and things like those. We also have customized legal documents. So let's say if you are going to an investor with a great idea and you want an NDA signed, we definitely custom draft an NDA for you. If you are hiring an employee and you want an employment agreement, we do those kind of contracts and documents. So legal document drafting is also a decent chunk of the business. And finally, we also do all the legal compliances for private limited companies and LLP. So these kind of structures require mandatory annual compliances. So we also have a healthy rate of repeat customers coming back for taking over their compliance work for us.
So previously you mentioned that you are not a licensed firm, as in you cannot sign somebody's audit report. So for example, I am a startup and I want to get my auditing done by your company. How does it work?
Right. So LegalVays does not do audit work.
Okay.
And the reason for that is, so it's kind of it's a value that we are trying to find in this market. The one thing is being a chartered accountant or a licensed chartered accountant, wherein you cannot advertise. Right? So in India, professionals cannot advertise. So if you are a law firm or if you are a chartered accountant, you cannot advertise your services.
Oh, we didn't know
Yes, so that is an interesting twist. So we are structured as a private limited company. So we cannot actually practice as a chartered accountant or a lawyer. So I cannot go personally in the court as LegalViz and defend you in the court. I cannot sign your audit document. But obviously there are other 80% of the work that these typical chartered accountant, lawyers or other conventional professional firms would do falls under a non-licensed category services, which is filing for your company registration form, or if you have an attorney code, then you can file for a trademark. So you don't need to be practicing chartered accountant to be able to incorporate a company for your client. So all that kind of services is what we function as an area of operations.
Okay. Now I understand that why don't we see big hoardings of
chartered
lawyers
accountants.
and CAs.
Exactly.
Just the way, we have visited US. I have visited US couple of times, and I see these big hoardings of like a lawyer who will be advertising himself with a big photo of himself. And I used to wonder that why this culture is not there in India yet.
Right.
Or probably why our lawyers or CAs are not advertising their firms. Now I know that.
Yeah.
So but when I search for them in Google,
Right.
so okay, but then that
They could do the SEO activities,
right.
but they wouldn't be able to
Like
do
there,
an SEM.
There may be
So-
a law coming in for that as well. You never know.
right.
Even in the US, I think there is a law called UPL, an unauthorized practice of law, which kind of refrains or it restricts the amount of. So they can kind of do outreach, but they cannot do marketing. There's a very thin line.
Makes sense. Makes
over
sense.
there.
So in a typical day, like what is your typical day like, and what is your probably Naman's your co-founder's typical day like? in
So
LegalViz?
so Naman is all about operations, keeping our customers happy, which is and he's doing a phenomenal job at it. So as we speak, we currently stand at roughly around 9.5 out of 10 on our referral score from unfiltered 1,000 clients that we have served so far, which is tremendous and unheard of
Absolutely.
in this industry. So Naman handles a lot of operations. He's he functions like the back office backbone. Also, he has a lot of inputs and majorly drives all the service lines that we would want to create in future. For example, now what we are offering for GST, or even the existing lines that we have created so far. So in this business technicality, I think he is more of a technical person over there. I handle a lot of marketing and technology. So my days are roughly around 50-50 split towards kind of building a sustainable technology. At the same time, the other 50% is engaging with the marketers and the digital marketing staffing that we have in house to strategize what kind of clients do we go after, target, acquire, retain, all these different marketing channels that we would use for customer acquisitions and retention is what I look out for.
Right. So I believe you are the face of the company, face of LegalViz, because I don't see Naman anywhere.
I think he keeps very busy with operations, and he's doing tremendous job at kind of keeping the customers happy. So if you would go to one of our customers, he or she would probably think that Naman is the face. When it comes to marketing, that people might think that I'm the face, but in true honesty, it is a great balance that we kind of keep between two of us, that have things checks and balances, but at the same time, our area of expertise as well as our area of operations are divided in such a way that we can take the full advantage of our capabilities.
Great.
So, no, this is very interesting. I think we also function like we are 4 partners, and we know founders that how these different personalities help the business. Okay, so what are some exciting things that LegalViz is planning to do in next 3 to 6 months? Like what things are coming in?
So scale is definitely one thing that we are planning to do in next 6 months. I think we have done really good so far. but definitely we see need to grow faster, and very fortunately we are placed in a very sweet spot right now in terms of staffing, technology, marketing, and other pieces of the business, that we are really here to grow, and we are showing a very promising future. So definitely scale is one card that we would want to play very soon. Apart from that, I think GST is going to be a huge opportunity for us, as well as any other business professional services provider in this country. With GST, there are a lot of different changes which are coming in the taxation structure of the country, and even the smallest pie of that is going to be a big opportunity for a lot of people. So GST, being GST ready for us is also very important. When I think about 6 to 12 months, definitely we want to get into a lot of services which are currently not provided by LegalViz, but also we think they are going to be natural extension of our current service lines. For example, personal legal services is something that is completely, I wouldn't say ignored, but in a very honest opinion, it is largely ignored in this country, right? When it comes to legal, it is more about business, less about personal. I think that is going to be one opportunity that is going to open up in future. Apart from that, as I mentioned earlier, we don't really see CAs as our competitors. They are rather the complements. You might also have gone through the same situation that you go to your CA for a work, and then let's say you want to file a trademark. Now the CA doesn't file a trademark, right? So he would refer you to somebody else. So I really see LegalViz being that one-stop solution, but at the same time being that referral network or an obvious referral choice for a lot of chartered accountants. So it's really co-rising. It is not competing with the existing industry. It is building value proposition for the entire industry is what I would think.
Yeah, so he mentioned a very interesting term, co-rising. We both are part of the co-rise movement, started by Jatin of Ichai.
Absolutely.
So we always talk about luck in this podcast.
Right.
So how much part do you think that luck played in your LegalViz?
That's a tricky question, right? Because I think a lot, and I also think none.
Okay.
When I say none, is because I do want to give a fair share of credit to the incredibly talented team that we have assembled over time, and a lot of hard work that's actually been put up by these people, to get a customer and to serve a customer beyond their expectations, right? And so there is a lot of hard work that kind of plays the role in success, whatever fair share of small success that we have had so far. And the answer yes is because a lot of people have great ideas, right? And a lot of people have great abilities, but they don't necessarily have great resources to execute those abilities and ideas,
or they themselves don't
execute. Or they don't execute. So being in a position, maybe financially, maybe with a right mindset, meeting right people at right time, right? Meeting Naman to start with at a right time, and meeting Naman, or Naman meeting me at the right time, vice versa, right? I mean, all those things are probably luck. Right? So I think definitely there is a share of luck that I'd see, that's going in our favor in this venture.
Absolutely. I believe it is true for any startup or any new business,
Absolutely.
or even any established business.
Absolutely.
Right. So when people say that you have to create your own luck, right? It in a way is a gist of this entire thing, that there is an element of luck always, but you have to create it for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that is a very right point that you have raised. Is you have to create your luck. And very luckily it has been with us throughout the journey.
You have been able to create it.
Great.
All right.
So
I think
who inspires you? Any books or any movies I mean, we're big fans of movies, and we were conversing before, and you are also a big movie fan or big
Absolutely.
movie buff. So any book, any movie, or any personality? Which
A lot of movies definitely inspire me. I'm not a huge fan of. Actually, I take it back. I'm a good fan of, very serious, life-related movies. But at the same time, most of my movie watching is more towards Govinda types movies, and the reason for that is very simple. It is something that I look out in the movie that I cannot do in real life, and that really inspires me. It is like, if life can be so random,
right,
and it can be it can not be so risk averse, or it can be so risk taking in a lot of aspects. I think that kind of is very inspiring as an entrepreneur.
So in that case, you must be liking a lot of superhero movies as well.
I do like superhero movies. I think they are pretty cool. I'm a good fan of Marvel movies. I'm a decent fan of. I haven't really followed a lot of Indian superheroes.
No, there are none actually. No, but probably Krish. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah.
or maybe Ajuba. He was the first.
He was the first superhero.
First Indian superhero.
Absolutely, I wouldn't disagree to that. But I think really kind of staying inspired and being inspired from something is I'm a huge fan of online reading. I'm not a very books or novels person, to be very honest. That is something that is lacking in me, to be very honest. But I can read for hours on screen. And what really excites me reading is Wikipedia. And I think that is a great example of how do you get to perfection through iteration and failing very fast.
Right.
If I write a very wrong information on Wikipedia, I'm almost guaranteed that within next 10 minutes it is going to get corrected by someone, right?
It's amazing.
And I think for a startup, it is a very important lesson to take, is you fail fast and you pivot yourself very quickly. And for that matter, I think Wikipedia becomes my hero at this point of time in learning how quickly you can iterate yourself and really get to perfection through iterations. You don't have to be right always, and you don't have to be right at the first time. What is very important it is you are right eventually.
Right. So probably that is the answer of our question. Any piece of advice you have for startup founders? Or probably somebody who is going to start a new company.
Yeah.
So you will say to them what? Fail fast?
Yeah, I think believe in yourself, fail fast, don't shy away from failure. You are going to fail, and that is going to define your success.
Okay.
Right. There are very few and very lucky people, right, who are going to be successful the first time. Everybody else goes through a failure and then eventually gets into that success, right?
So like there is nothing like an overnight success.
No, and I was actually reading this very interesting piece of article online. Is the guy who had created this game, like catching random things on the virtual reality game that became an overnight sensation, right?
The Pokemon? Or?
The Pokemon, right?
Pokemon,
Yeah.
yes.
So that is what he quoted. Is it took him almost 10 good years to get that instant success.
Absolutely.
Right?
And another example, the Angry Birds. It was probably the 50th game that company created.
Exactly. And then eventually,
yeah. So
absolutely.
I mean, the company was on the verge of bankruptcy, and then Angry Birds happened. So you never know.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think it is also very important to understand the failure and pivot quickly, right? A lot of startup owners or startup entrepreneurs, they are so attached to their original ideas that they do not accept that the market is not willing to accept it.
Right.
And the only thing that you have as a startup as an edge over competitors, and especially large-scale competition, is your ability to pivot.
Absolutely.
You are not married to anything. You are a very wild and free artist, right?
Interesting.
And so I think that is what my piece of advice is going to be to all the fellow entrepreneurs is accept failure and pivot very quickly out of it.
No, I really liked you said that understand the failure. Many a times people say that, okay, I am failing, but I am trying.
Right.
But they are not learning from the failure.
They continue to fail because
And just the way we keep telling at Digicorp, change is the only constant.
Only constant.
That is
So-
absolutely right.
Yeah, so I think that covers most of the thing. Any ways we can help you, and our listeners or Digicorp can help you.
Absolutely. So I think, otherwise as well, Digicorp has been a great supporter. To start with a good customer, being a good customer, right? And then eventually, spreading word out for us through this podcast. I think it has been already a tremendous help from Digicorp. Definitely, the great help that I would ask for is definitely do keep trust in us as a service provider, as a fellow community member, and as Abhishek pointed out, it is a great initiative of co-rising, and I have a huge faith in it. So, obviously the way that you can help and the way I can help you and the whole community can help each other is through spreading word of amazing services that we all provide. We all are very passionate, may it be Digicorp, may it be LegalViz or anybody else within the community. So I think we all are here to rise and co-rise. So thanks a lot for a great gesture.
All right. Thank you, Shrijay. I believe we have covered most of the questions, and I believe this will be a good time to close this podcast. Kuntal, any closing thoughts?
No, I think really interesting. Probably this podcast also give us a lot of insight of Shrijay as a person.
Right.
So great to know, and I think all the listeners can get a lot of tips from this. And all the best to Shrijay, and we'll look forward to a scaled up LegalViz.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll probably, I don't know if it is right to say it or not, but LegalZoom of India.
I wish to be there definitely, and I've learned a lot from those guys. So I definitely owe fair share of my success to the company there. It has been a great journey with them, which translated into a great journey of LegalViz.
All right. Great. Thank you, Shrijay. Thank you for coming here today. And so if you like this podcast, please rate us on iTunes. And if you like us or hate us, please do comment. Get back to us via email. Our company's website is digi-corp.com. And you can find us. Simply type Digicorp in Google or simply type D Podcast in iTunes. And we look forward to your feedback. Thank you very much, everyone.